Praise, glory, and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachapadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom to you brothers out there preaching and teaching in the highways and byways, sincerity and in truth. Shalom, Barakathum. And I'm in transit, man, outside. Forgive me if the audio is a little bit noisy. But I'm going to read this starting at 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 7. It says, "Consider what I say, and the Lord give thee understanding in all things." All right. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of Christians, people that have their own worldviews, whether you be an atheist, a Christian, or agnostic, that when you really look at it, man, I'm going to show you a video in a second about how they can't believe how the evidence of the famous Sodom and Gommorah existed. But when they think about it, the scriptures give you all that you need, man. You just have to consider these things, all right? When you consider them, it makes sense. When you go over there and you look at the archaeological evidence, it's quite clear that there was a city. That should be number one context clue, because people like to write off the Israelites as just a fictional people. Well, wait a minute. There's several cities, ruins, artifacts, all right? So that should tell you the people existed, number one. So that should give credence to some of the stories that are told there. Okay, now what happens when you dig deeper? All right, you see the other people that they talked about, like the Babylonians existed, the Canaanites existed, the Egyptians existed. Okay, various events like the flood, all these things occurred. Okay, but because Christians don't consider things, it goes past them. All right, they have to lean into their own understanding. All right, which they say it's science. All right. But saying that you're scientific is just another way of saying that you're spiritual, because it is another spirit in quote unquote science, man. All right. If you're a quote unquote scientist, you follow a religion. There are people that govern you. There's funding. There's ideologies. Okay, you're not just this complete skeptic. Okay. Evaluator with no emotions and no bias. Okay, that's not what science is. It's run by people, and mainly the mainstream science is by Esau, man. So you got to question this thing. But let's watch some of this video here.
Like 15 years ago, I was at the Society of Biblical Literature, which is being held in that year in San Francisco, and I was in one of these, conference rooms, and I just wandered into this session because it had an intriguing title, something about archaeological discoveries at Tel El Hammam in Jordan. I thought, well, I'll walk into this, because a lot of these conferences at the Society of Biblical Literature, like these ideologically driven, post-colonial, feminist, whatever, interpretation of this, that, or the other thing. So I like to go to the ones that are actually about language or history or something. Somebody actually dug something up and we're talking about data, So this archaeological session I wandered in, I started listening, and as I'm listening to this presentation for about 45 minutes, near the end of it, I began to realize, oh my gosh, these people presenting think that they have found the biblical cities of Sodom and Gommorah. That's what they're saying.
They think.
Saying in a really roundabout, really understated way. So at the end of the presentation, they stop the presentation and they open up for questions, and they describe these two city mounds that they had found on the Jordanian side of the Jordan River, and in this destruction layer and so on. And so I raised my hand immediately. I said, well, did you find any arrowheads? The reason I asked that, Matt, is when you have a destruction layer of an ancient city, if you find arrowheads in the destruction layer, it means that an army caused the destruction, and they were
correct. So this Edomite, he's a so-called Christian, but he was skeptic of some of the stories in the Bible. Now that goes to show you that they're not the real Israelites. Okay, because when we read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, we believe that could happen. We're a more spiritual people. We don't have this skepticism for the natural world and creation. Esau does. Esau's skeptical because he's got his own plan to recreate everything. Deep down, that's what it's rooted in. All right. Let me start at Psalm 64. This is the main thing I want to get on to. Psalm 64 and 2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who with their who with their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, but even bitter words, man. All right, and we use the scripture all the time to go into the demonization of Jake. All right, but you can really apply that across all of history, man. Just think about all the languages he's changed. Okay, just by him showing up in these other nations as the Romans, he forced hella people to speak Latin, man. You know, that's why all of these different other languages like French, Italian, Spanish, okay, even Russian has some root in the Latin language, man. All because of the conquering this guy did, man. All right, even 40% of the English vocabulary is Latin, okay? But it says, verse 64, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. All right? And what they did was they hid our identity, man. And they knew who we were, and they constantly fucking denigrated us, man. Okay? They took our language, our culture. All right? They split our families apart. That was the most egregious thing, not the physical torture that they put on us, even though that was very egregious. All right? But verse 5, they encouraged themselves in an evil matter. They boasted science, all right? Theories like evolution and Big Bang. All right? And now they're coming to find out that they couldn't make sense of none of it. They got to the Lord. When we watched the movie Oppenheimer, the Lord let them get down to the realm of quantum physics. He let them get that close just to show them they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Now, you fast forward to modern day quantum physics and quantum mechanics. Nobody is an expert. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on there. All right? That's a snare that Most High put at them. They got enough power to be proud. They can make missiles and nukes and all these different things, but they're far, far away from cracking the actual code. All right? But let me go back.
We're shooting arrows at the defenders and blah, 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 blah. If you find a destruction layer and there aren't arrowheads, that means an army did not destroy the city, and then probably it was some kind of natural event, right? So I'm curious, like, what destroyed these two cities that you guys think are Sodom and Gommorah? And so the researcher starts to get very bashful when I ask this question. He says, well, I didn't really want to go there, but all I want to say while we're recording this session is that it was a heat event. And there's like 20 other people in the room, and we're like looking at each other like, a heat event? Like, is that like a wardrobe malfunction? Like, what is a heat event?
Right.
You know, like, okay. And then he stopped the recording, and like the official session was over.
What that's code for is something blew this motherfucker up. They're talking about it's a heat event. That's what wiped out the cities. Okay? He's trying to guise it like, oh, it could have been. I mean, you say heat event, you could guise it as like, oh, it was just the high temperatures, you know, or it could have been a volcano. No, that's why he uses vague and generic terms like that. Okay, all right, you know what city that is, man. You know exactly what region you're in. Okay, you know what all of the nations wrote about this story, man. Everybody that was around knew what the fuck was going on. All right.
You know, and so it's like off camera at this point. So all of us in the room like mob the guy at the front, like, okay, you know, tell us what's going on. And so this researcher, Stephen Collins he's from a southwestern university in the U.S. here. He says, okay, so we get down to this destruction layer of this city that we're beginning to think is Sodom, and we pulled up a piece of pottery, and when I looked on one side of it, I thought, oh no, our research is ruined, because I saw that it was glazed, and glazing wasn't invented until the Ottoman period, or at least the kind of glazing that he thought he saw. And the Ottoman period is like 1000 AD, and if you're pulling that up, that means you've got contamination in your archaeological dig. You got like later artifacts down there. But then he turned the pottery over, and on the back of it, it was typical Bronze Age pottery, but it was glazed on one side.
All right. So what that means is, okay, it's none of that. It's no recent contamination. The reason that it's glazed, okay, is that heat got to it. You can see all of the other archaeological stuff because we were in the Bronze Age. A lot of our stuff was made out of bronze at that time. All right. A lot of our tools, a lot of our weapons were made out of bronze. Okay. We knew about iron and things of that nature, but that was likely reserved for royalty. You know, uh, people like King David probably would have had iron on them. You know, but by and large, we use a lot of bronze. So this is how they know it's from that era. All right.
And not on the other. Like, what on earth is going on? So, make a long story short, he sends this away to a lab in the U.S. and for testing, and they come back and say, well, that glazing is trinitite. Okay, great. What's trinitite? Well, trinitite is that glass layer that you get when you basically set off an atomic bomb in the desert, and it melts the glass, and you get a kind of crystalline formation that's called.
And that's symbolic, man. All right, the Lord said He's going to do this again. All right, now back then it wasn't a warhead shot out of a military silo. All right, the Lord just sent it from the chariot, man. All right, but the end result is when you get heat close to a certain temperature, it melts it. Okay, and when you melt or you take a silicone and carbon and you put it at the high, it basically turns into a glass. All right, let's keep going. He's going to prove it.
Trinitite. So this pottery was raised to over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit for a brief moment of time. Like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. So they continue to bring up this glazed pottery, and eventually what they discover is, among other things, they also begin to find human remains. They find human skeletons that are complete up until about halfway up the backbone, and then there's just a scorch mark, and there's nothing on the top of the body.
That's beautiful, man. That means the nigga got half his body blown off, man, during this event. He got half his body blown off. All right? And when you read Genesis 19, this thing was so bad that Lot's daughters thought the world was ending, man. They thought every man on the earth was basically dead. It was so destructive. All right? So much so that they got their father drunk and laid with him, man, to have kids. But they thought that there were no more men on the earth. All right?
And they find the skeleton behind a wall that's about, 4 feet high. So what's going on here? Well, long story short, they find massive evidence that a huge heat blast from the sky at about 25 degrees above the horizon incinerated these twin cities on the Jordanian side of the river, just north of the Dead Sea. Yeah.
25 degrees. That means that if you look at that angle, so a flat is like flat would be 180, or depending on how you look at it, 90. All right, and this is 25 degrees because that's coming at a sharp angle. All right, if 180 is going straight ahead across, 180 minus 25, you have to click all the way up. It was coming basically almost directly from above, man. You know, that means this was something that hit that place, man. This was a destruction that was written about, man. Let me go to Genesis 19. Go down. Let me see here, Salakia. Okay. Genesis 19 and 24, it says, the Lord Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gommorah brimstone and fire, all right, from the Lord Yahweh out of heaven. All right. And it says, and he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities that which grew upon the ground. All right. So this says that this thing was sent. Now they call it brimstone in the scriptures, okay? And there's a reason why they likely called it brimstone is because brimstone was a real thing. And brimstone is actually sulfur. All right. If you take a brimstone, which is a rock made of primarily sulfur, if you just so much expose it to moisture, even humidity in the atmosphere could ignite it. Okay. So that's what they saw as basically a big flaming rock, like flaming rock, or a bunch of rocks just coming down, man, incinerating it at very high heat. You know, and Moses and everybody that spoke about this wrote it down to the best that they could with the words that were used at that time. We didn't have the word ICBM back then. All right.
And they have the artifacts to prove it.
And again, the reason it has to be from the sky.
What's that?
The reason it had to be from above?
Because of the angle. Like they have these human remains that apparently were standing upright behind a wall, and everything above the wall was incinerated, and they do like the angular calculations, and they can see, oh, that blast was coming like this, you know? So they can calculate the angle at which, and the stuff when they find the stuff in situ, and they've got a scorched side or a melted side, you know, again they can triangulate where this was coming from. And so, long story short, you know, from a natural material, you know, explanation, this looks like a meteor blast. You know,
that's what I was about to ask. What was the naturalistic explanation?
Yeah, you know. Like in Tunguska, I think it was called Siberia back in the 1800s.
Right.
There was this,
and that's how the Lord is going to overthrow this place again, man. All right, and they're basically breaking it down. The devil. All right. Let me keep going in Psalms 64. All right. Started going at verse 6. It says, they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. All right. And they know everything, man. The Vatican, they have all of these different secrets. All right. They got so much information. It would convince any nigga. I think Esau's got enough information that even the dopiest nigga would believe if Esau showed it to him, if it came from Esau and they showed him everything that they had. All right, but they're not going to do that. Matter of fact, they fought to hide it. All right, so they know all of this, man. While everybody's debating about atheism and you know that's folly, man. They know. All right. It says both the inward thought of them and the heart is deep. All right, so this guy has an answer for everything. He's always got an explanation. All right, and then when you press him on it and call him out and grill him, it's all made up. Ultimately, all right. It says, but the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. All right, and that's talking about this time coming up. That's how Sodom and Gommorah was hit. Suddenly. All right. So shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All right, and that's what's happening now. Most of the information, revelations coming out is coming out by Edomites, man, because the house of Esau is divided. All of the so-called conspiracy theories, they're proven true by Edomite, because niggas don't believe nothing unless it comes from Esau. All right, it's all come from him. All right. It says, all men shall fear and shall declare the work of the Most High, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. All right. And that's basically where we are right now, man. Everybody's questioning this guy, man. Okay, 9/11. Now it's to the point to where if you brought up the landing on the lunar surface, I'll say that to guise it, because YouTube has an algorithm for every goddamn thing. All right. Then what you would find out is most people would be willing to buy that Esau lied about it. Why? Because he's been found out lying on so many things, which we knew that already. All right. It says the righteous shall be glad in the Lord Yahweh and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory, man. So the truth is coming out in the earth. All right. Esau's being confounded and he's being made bare at the same damn time. All right. And the Lord said that that would happen right before the actual destruction would come. Okay? The Lord said things that like has never happened before is getting ready to happen. All right, man. So I'll end it there, man. Lord willing, this was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Bahakwadash Wa Abba Babal Shalom.